Okay, good evening guys. So as Malcolm has said multiple times, we are the veteran blockchain company from Singapore. Actually Eddie spoiled the surprise today, but yeah, anyway I'll go with it. So how many of you use LinkedIn? Oh, almost all of us, that's good. And how many of you like using LinkedIn? Yeah, maybe 5 people. That's great. We are here to solve that problem. We are here to disrupt LinkedIn. Indorse, we are building a decentralized LinkedIn, a LinkedIn on the blockchain. So let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Gaurang Torvekar. Our company is based in Singapore. I'm based in Singapore. I've been working in the blockchain space since the last 3+ years, unlike Eddie and David, my other co-founder, who have been working for more than 5 years. So David knows Eddie very well, and Eddie was actually instrumental in helping us do the ICO at the time. I'm personally also involved in blockchain standardization efforts. So ISO, which is International Standards Organization, they are coming up with a blockchain standard. And I actually represent Singapore as one of the blockchain experts in that panel. So yeah, enough about myself. What is Indorse? Indorse actually stands on 3 pillars. The first is about ownership of your data. With any of these social networks like Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Instagram, you don't own your data. They have control over your data, and as you can see from Cambridge Analytica scandal, they can do anything they want with your data. Second thing is about data monetization, because with LinkedIn or Facebook, every like, every share you do, you're making a lot of dollars for them. But as a user, you don't get anything out of it. And the third and the most important thing is about skills validation. Because on LinkedIn, I can go and say anything. I can go and say I'm a Java developer, or I've been in the blockchain space since the last 20 years, which is really not true. But yeah, you have to take me at my face value. On Indorse, everything that you see has to be endorsed, for the lack of good term. Everything has to be proven, and there's a kind of community validation. I'll get into it. But yeah, that's what Indorse stands on. The first 2 things can be achieved using blockchain, the incentivization and the ownership of your data. And the skills validation is achieved through a community of experts on the platform. So yeah, where are we right now? We launched our company in the last 1.5 years ago in April 2017, March 2017 actually, and then Eddie came in the company and Coinsilium invested in us around April or May last year, right? Yeah. So after that, we conducted a successful ICO in September 2017. We raised around 27,000 Ether, which was worth $9 million at the time. And as you know, the crypto market is so volatile. It was 9 million in September, 37 million in January, and it's still 7 or 8 million, because when we raised, the prices were at the same point almost. So nothing lost, everything is good. We have already launched on the mainnet. We are making some small revenue. We made around $15,000 this year. Might be making more quite soon. And we have 40,000 users on the platform. Interesting part is all these users are really global in nature, because that's why we did the ICO. You know, it was not only about raising money, it was also about building a community around the idea, building a community around the vision of a decentralized future. And we have a lot of people in our social channels. So just on Telegram, which is a chat app like WhatsApp, we have more than 100,000 people. So yeah, the main gist of Indorse is doing skills validation. We have a community of experts who validate your skills. We also have some artificial intelligence chatbots which help you validate your skills. I'll get into the details of that. But I know all of you guys are very tired today. It's the evening and the weather is not so good. So what better than a good story, right? I'm going to tell you the story of Arif. Now the next question in your mind might be, who is Arif? Arif is actually, or was, a hairdresser in Singapore. You know, in Singapore there's this thing called national service, where every young person has to go through the army. And Arif's family actually does the hairstyling for those guys, and you know the hairstyling is very simple. But yeah, he was doing that. He was doing well, but he wanted to become a developer. He wanted to come into software development. And at that time he was a hairdresser. He was also driving Uber and Grab, which is like Lyft in Singapore. He was also doing some bartending at Marina Bay Sands, the hotel with the boat at the top. So yeah, Arif had a very interesting journey towards becoming a software developer. Once when he was driving Uber in Singapore, there was a guy from DBS Bank, a banker. DBS is one of the biggest banks in Singapore. And this banker was having a chat with Arif. He was like, hey, what do you do? Like, what are your passions? What do you do in your free time? And Arif is like, hey, I am very passionate about gaming and coding, but I don't know how to do it. So this guy is like, hey, one of my friends, he just got a job at DBS as a developer, and he did this coding course at General Assembly, which is like a coding school in Singapore. So Arif actually got really interested. He did the coding course, but even after that, it was very difficult for Arif to get a job. It took 3 to 4 months to get a job at Indorse. Actually, we hired him, and I'm personally a big believer in a skills economy, because I know that certifications are important. I know that degrees and qualifications are important, but I personally think what is more important is the skill of a person. And a certificate might not always be the best indication of skill. And that's why we hired Arif, because Arif could show me his code. He could show me that he had done a lot of practice coding, a lot of small projects in GitHub and his Bitbucket code. And that's why I hired him. I took a leap of faith, and I would like to tell you that he has been one of my best hires until now. He's a really passionate developer. He's really a passionate programmer. He's working until 10 or 11 o'clock most of the days when we have deployments, and he's really motivated. So he had a lot of problems, right? It was very difficult for him to validate his skills because he did not have a formal education in computer science or in coding, and he didn't have certifications. He was not from Stanford, he was not from Yale, he was not from Oxford, but he was a skilled person, and I would tell you that he is as skilled a developer as any Oxford graduate right now. We actually have a person from Oxford. He works in and out of London, and both of them, they are at the same level in their career. Both of them are really good developers. So yeah, it's very difficult for people like Arif to prove their skills. That's why we are building this solution. We are building a blockchain-based skills validation network. We have two ways of doing it. The first is AIP, Anonymous Endorsement Protocol, and the second is also artificial intelligence chatbot. And ultimately, we want to use these techniques, these technologies, to help people find new jobs. Why is this important to Arif? It is important for Arif because he doesn't have a degree, he doesn't have a certification. He needs a way to validate his skill and demonstrate his skill to the world. And then you might ask, why is it important for everyone else? Is Arif the only customer or the stakeholder in this platform? Not really. The next stakeholder, when you get really good developers on the platform, when you get people to validate their skills, the next stakeholder in this case is the recruiters or the HR folks, employers who actually want to employ these people. And I'm a really great guy. I'm going to tell you one more story today. So it's a story of hiring at Indorse. So we saw one side, which was actually the developers who want to get a job. Now I'll tell you the anecdote about how we hired at Indorse. So Avdut, who is my co-founder and CMO, he posted 2 jobs on one of the biggest job listing websites, Indeed.com. We were trying to hire 2 developers in India. On those 2 job posts, we got 600 applications. Maybe we are really popular or the salary was high for India. We got 600 applications. We took all of them through our validation exercise. Only 20 could pass those validations and the final level. And 200 of them didn't even bother doing the validations. So that shows the motivation and passion of these people, right? Out of those 20, we made offers to 4 of them and hired 2 of them. So what I'm trying to tell here is that as Indorse, we provide a very high level of filtering and noise reduction. Because if you go on any of these websites like monster.com, indeed.com, there's a big noise over there. And we are trying to work with them. we are trying to work with these kind of websites so that they can reduce the noise, and the employers will get really relevant candidates, really relevant profiles on their jobs. So yeah, just a quick explanation how the AIP process works. What's the main innovation at Indorse? So suppose there's a developer like Arif who creates an account on Indorse. He comes on Indorse and says that he can develop or code in Java. So along with this claim, it becomes a claim on the platform. Along with this claim, he has to attach a proof element, because on LinkedIn right now you can go and say anything, there's no proof attached to it. On Indorse, you have to attach your GitHub code or your Bitbucket link. This claim will go for endorsements to a random set of experts on the platform. Right now we need 10 votes on every claim for it to be validated. So it goes to a random set of experts. They look at your code, they evaluate your code, and right now they are actually even running all the test cases on the code. They are trying to see if the code is really good or not, and then they start voting on the claim. So in this case, they might say yes or no. We also get a lot of feedback from them, like Uber. They give like 5-star ratings on different parameters of coding: design patterns, code quality, test coverage, assignment completion, all these things. And based on a consensus out of these people, the claim either gets endorsed or flagged. And each of these actors in this system is incentivized for their work, and that's how they can monetize their data, that's how they can monetize their activity. And just to let you know, we actually have a really engaged community of validators right now. In the last month, September and October, the most highly rewarded validators, they earned more than $500 each for 2 consecutive months. This shows that, and you can actually pay rent in $500 in multiple countries in the world. This shows that this is really working. This is working, people like it. As Adam was mentioning earlier, we have built a minimum viable ecosystem in this case. And I think that's a really good term to describe the journey or the stage at which we are right now as a company. So yeah, what's next? The next thing for us is to scale up as a business, scale up as a company, because Singapore is a really small market. Singapore only has 5 million people. We need to expand out of Singapore. That's our next step. We spent this entire year building the product, getting the ecosystem, getting people to use it, making sure it works, making sure people like it. And now that people like it, we know that it works. The next stage is to scale. We are looking at multiple markets like India, Europe, to scale our business. We are also going to go towards enterprise clients. It's not just a B2C platform, it's going to be a B2B2C platform, because we are looking at channel partners like Indeed.com, Monster.com to source the candidates for us. So our aim is to have a button everywhere in the world saying get validated on Indorse. Anywhere where you are applying for a job, you will see that button in the next 2 to 3 years, and that's my promise to you. And ultimately, we want to be helping people like Arif all over the world, and that's why we are building Indorse. Thank you.